Welcome back to Cody in the Cinema. Today, I'm going to rank the feature films of one of the best directors who ever lived, one of the all-time greats, just a master of cinema as an art form, Andrei Tarkovsky. And for the purposes of this video, I will be focusing on his 7 features, so I'm not going to get into his student film stuff or anything like that. Guidelines for this is nothing more than how I personally reacted to the film. And the purpose of going through this ranking is not to say that this film is better than that film or this film has more importance than that one, but to get a conversation started, to see from viewers, like, what are the films from this director that really impacted you? And I love his film so much that I felt like I had to do something like this. So in at number 7, I'm going to go with the film that I enjoyed a little less than the others, but certainly still a good one. Ivan's Childhood, his first feature. And this is a little bit more traditional than some of his others. A little bit less with like the long takes and so forth. But basically, a boy in World War II is in the midst of a war. He's lost his family, and everything he goes through is very depressing. It's like Come and See, but not quite as sad as that one. I do feel like this being Tarkovsky's first full-length feature, you can kind of see him learning his craft a little bit more than the other ones, but there are terrific visuals, especially of the woods and the forest, and some of the actual scenes that involve battle. You know, they're not particularly exciting, but they're still poetic and beautiful and haunting and all those things you associate with the director. But I'd be curious to know if this maybe was like one that other people liked a little better. A terrific performance from the lead in this, the young child, and a truly stellar ending that stuck with me for a long time. So again, just my least favorite, but another great film. And the first Tarkovsky I ever watched, I had heard that this was like, you know, the counter to 2001: A Space Odyssey from the director. And this one's never clicked with me as much as 2001: A Space Odyssey. But I do really like it, especially. Actually, I'm more actually into this like the first like 30 minutes of this one. Solaris, where ground control is getting these like weird transmissions from people on the Solaris space station, and so they have to send someone in there to kind of figure out what's going on. And this becomes one of those really like spiritual outer space movies, as all of Tarkovsky's films are very spiritual. And I've only seen this on this DVD, so I've had this DVD forever. I'm curious if I got like an updated version, if that would change my mind or not. I'm a little bit less science fiction oriented in general, and you're going to hear me continue to talk and be like, are you sure? But that might be some of why I enjoyed this one just a little less, and part of this is because of 2001: A Space Odyssey being like one of the top ever films. But I do believe that this is a truly remarkable science fiction film. I love the space station. I love how the director plays with reality. I love his use of home and that piece of it. Don't want to spoil too much. Great film as well. And this is where it started getting much more difficult, because I had 3 that were all kind of similar to me. And I eventually decided on my next ranking being The Sacrifice. This is a Blu-ray from Kino Lorber. And the basic idea is that this family is celebrating this birthday, and they get caught in the middle of something like World War III. It's reached this kind of remote island where they are, and it's the terror and the anxiety that they feel being kind of stuck in this home, although you don't really immediately know that that's what's going on as it plays out. I did think this had some of the best like flashing light imagery in all of his movies, and I love the acting, the intensity of the actors. If anybody was going to make the threat of nuclear annihilation be a beautiful piece of art, it was Andrei Tarkovsky. Love it. I'm going to watch it a few more times. I've only seen this one once, but I really like, these are all-time greats to me. So we'll see how we feel about that one. And now I'm going to go into the four that really have spoken to me like on a different kind of level. Each of these films has at least one scene that I believe will stay with me the rest of my life, because that's how powerful the images are, for me personally. So I have recently watched, and that's one of the reasons I decided to make this video, is I recently watched my 4K of nostalgia, and I was reminded why I love this director so much. This is sort of a simple story, but this Russian intellectual type, he's doing some research. He's in Italy. He has an assistant of sorts who has a crush on him. He meets this crazy Domenico character who is something of like a prophet that you might see in a Bellatar film. I don't know. Is interesting. But some of the shots of the interiors, the use of water, which Tarkovsky's always uses water to one effect or another. This 4K, my jaw literally dropped on a couple of scenes. Especially there's one where the camera pans across this building, and like if he was going for a person missing home and like being maybe a little bit mentally vacant from the beauty around him or whatever he was going for, like this just totally worked for me. I can still hear and see certain scenes from this movie. This is one of my favorite 4Ks that I now own. And I love like the mineral water and stuff, whatever that was that the one man is walking across. Like, how can anyone make water look this good all the time? Amazing film. The next one that I like even better, and I'm going to be honest with you, like I don't understand this film, and I'm going to attempt to explain it as best I can in terms of plot. So, Mirror is, according to Criterion, a sublime reflection on let me see if I get this right. A sublime reflection on 20th century Russian history, a poem of images. That makes sense to me, and it is a little bit like hallucinatory at times. They use this word collage, a textured collage. That's right, of different like newsreels, and then maybe fiction, maybe not, kind of a blending of styles. And it, I know that this had some kind of mixed reactions at the time from critics, but it's become one that I know many have gravitated toward who love these criterions and so forth. But I think this is his most like ambitious, and it's so much fun to watch the visuals in the house that as that memory of this child plays out. And there, of course, is that famous fire scene that's so good. There are shots of one of the women in this, and the way that she moves across like a hallway that really, even that is just astounding to look at. This movie I love so much just because it challenges me every time I've watched through it. Like I constantly feel like this reinvents movies for me when I look at any part of this film. And so I love it so much for that reason. This is kind of like the movie that made me want to collect more Criterions, something that I just can't wrap my mind around. And it's awesome. So I love Mirror, and I wish maybe with enough, viewings, I'll understand it a little better. So if you feel like you have a good grasp of this film, I'd love to hear from you in the comments, because it's so beautiful, but I can't even wrap my head around it. And the other two, if it wasn't for how much I love my number one, Stalker is insane. Like I have had dreams that remind me so much of The Zone and Stalker. So Stalker is about this guide who's literally called a stalker, who has to lead some people into this restricted area called The Zone, which, like, without spoiling it, imagine it's just like a magic area. It's not like, I'm just using that term to help you understand, like weird stuff happens. And the level of convincing that this zone is like otherworldly or not. It doesn't play with the rules of reality, but still has a basis in reality. There's nothing like this I've ever seen in any motion picture ever. This is, to me, this is like the science fiction film of all science fiction films. Like, this is what you should try to achieve. And I've never seen anything come close. I like this much better than any, like even 2001. Like, this to me is the science fiction masterpiece of all time. And so, like, I actually struggle with other science fiction films because this nailed it so well. And in a similar way to like 12 Angry Men, I can't often watch other courtroom related movies because that movie was so much better than most of them. That's the way I feel about Stalker. What a masterpiece. What a great use of photography and just like, this is so beautiful. Such a good film. And finally, my number one, and really this one is my number one Tarkovsky and my second favorite film of all time behind Once Upon a Time in the West, which I frequently talk about on this channel. My favorite black and white film, Andrei Rublev, the definitive art film. Like, black and white, it's about a painter, and it's about, you know, this medieval Russian world. There's a sequence here where our character, like, stumbles onto some pagans in the woods, and if you've never seen that, it's like enchanting, and it's scary, and it sparks curiosity and terror and fear and hope and a sense of playful joy, like, all at the same time. There's a raid battle scene that's like the best ever of any like great battle scene. You know, it rivals some of what I've seen in the War and Peace movie that's so popular in the collection. Like, the ending to this, like, I remember the first time I saw it, like, I didn't know about the ending. So a lot of people do before they watch it. I didn't know what the ending was going to do. And it did the thing, like the big cool thing. And I was like, oh, it's still going. What? Like, they did that? Oh, yo, Tarkovsky, man. Like, I was so blown away. Like, and I watched this again about a year ago, and the same exact thing happened. The gravity of what I was seeing, it's just top to bottom. This is what a black and white movie should be. This is what, I know it's like loose history or whatever, but like, this is what an epic should be. This is what a character study should be. This is what a biopic, and, you know, so to speak, should be. Like, this is the gold standard of filmmaking, especially in terms of black and white. And I think that this is Tarkovsky clicking on every level. The long takes are great. You know, the use of sound that's so unique to him, the sense of loneliness and isolation and spirituality that's present in his films, like, it all just kind of comes together so perfectly in this movie, and I love it so much. So that's a little brief ranking of how I feel about Tarkovsky's great filmography. Let me know in the comments below what you might keep the same or change, or if there's one you gravitate toward a little bit more or less than I did. And we'll see you next time on Cody in the Cinema.